Welcome to the Iron Breed Podcast. My name is Austin, and here again with me today is Gerard.
What's going on, everyone? Coming at you on this Monday, Mindset Monday. Hope y'all starting the week off right.
That's what we're trying to do. We're all trying to start the week off with a fresh mind, looking forward to getting it done and getting closer to our goals. With that being said, today we're going to talk about planning and how failure to plan is planning to fail.
Yes, and another catch-22 with that also knowing what to do when your plan fails.
Because inevitably at some point your plan will fail. It's
Exactly,
just gonna happen. But it's you fail enough times so that way you learn how to not fail.
exactly. Be sure that you're changing your approach. You're learning from your failure. We've spoken on that several times on this podcast because, as Einstein said, doing what was it?
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result.
Einstein, man, he had it down. Like, so if you're not learning from your failure, you're not, humble enough to admit when it happens and grow from it. You're not setting yourself up for success. When I think a lot of us kind of fall into the, problem of the mindset of is, yeah, I want to be successful. I want things to work out, but we don't ever put a conscious plan into action. We say it's going to happen. We think it's going to happen. I'll make $1 million one day, one of these days, but we don't ever go about and develop the plan to get us there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually probably one of the most overlooked and probably more important um, aspects of doing that, because really, if you don't have a plan, it's great to have lofty goals and stuff, but at the same time, if you don't have a reasonable or defined plan of action on how you're getting there, then I guess it really doesn't matter, because you won't know how to get there. You'll just run around with your chicken like a chicken with your head cut off and hope you run into that wall of success.
Exactly. And,
You don't know where you're going if you don't have a plan.
yeah, and Austin put a great post up on the store, our page the other day, the difference between motivation and mindset. And I think a lot of us do well is we get motivated quickly, easily, especially when we're in a comfortable environment. You see something cool, you see someone else doing something, and I can do that. Yeah, if I just start, but you don't dial into what you need to work on, where your flaws are at, where you could, develop and do a better job at, and how you're going to get there. Arnold Schwarzenegger always says you have to have a vision, you have to have a goal. And that's so great because otherwise you're just, like Austin said, running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Why is that saying hard tonight?
Yeah, words are hard all the time. It's just how it is. Um, I don't plan for words to be hard, so therefore they're hard. No, but really, I mean that's kind of like the determination of, like, the mindset versus motivation thing is really, that's one the background of why we named this segment Mindset Monday. We could have, Motivation Monday rolls off the tongue, honestly, even after we decided on a mindset. How many weeks was I saying motivation when I was referring to this segment? It was like, because it just rolls off your tongue. Motivation is like the quickest, easiest thing to think of. But, like, once again, if we waited until we were motivated to record and, like, try and do stuff, we would never do stuff. And that goes for Iron Breed too, because you know what? We both do a lot. And I know there's times where we sure don't feel like doing it, but we got to do it because that's the mindset we have, because we know we got to do what we got to do. And that's the thing. Like, once again, sometimes we weren't the best about having plans for how we're going to do it. We're just like, all right, well, let's go do it. Well, that's great. But now you're just doing and running around with it like a chicken with your head cut off, not really having a plan. So how are we going to get anywhere if we don't really have a plan of action for what we're doing? And, like, yeah, I admit that that's something that we have not done a super great job of, but we sat down and had the critical conversations of being like, okay, well, we need to develop a game plan for what we need to do moving forward. And that's the same thing that you need to do for what you're trying to accomplish with your life and your goals. One of the best analogies, honestly, like when we were discussing this idea, the first thing that popped in my mind was meal prepping. And you're like, what? Preps? But like for real, because if you seriously dieting, this is the best example. If you are trying to lose weight, if you are not preparing ahead of time, or not even like trying to lose weight, but if you're trying to like accomplish some sort of physique change, if you're not preparing ahead of time, if you don't have that food prepared ahead of time, and then, well, let's just say one day you're running late or something's, hitting the fan, and you're not able to like do the thing that you need to or put your food together, and now you're, oh well shit, I don't have any food, so now I got to go order food somewhere. Right there, you are now off your diet because you did not plan ahead, you did not have the foresight to do it, you did not care enough to put yourself in a position to win. So that's why planning is so important, because it removes those excuses that these things can happen. So when you have these planned out things, it's easier to follow it, but you need to put that plan in place. So like, yeah, people say like, oh, I hate meal prepping. Well, yeah, I guess you hate making progress too. Not that I'm saying meal prep's the only way that you're going to make progress, but for a lot of times and a lot of people, you need to have actionable steps. And a lot of times creating those meals that are easily accessible, or going through your apartment kitchen and getting rid of all your junk food or things that don't fit on your diet, removing it from your surroundings, is the best thing that you can do, best plan you can put in place to set yourself up for success.
And that kind of ties in perfectly. Okay, what happens when your plan goes awry? It fails. And this could be a multitude of things, but for instance, we're going to go off of the meal prep diet. And generally, you drive by Burger King or McDonald's and you break. And next thing you know, you're in the drive-through. Next thing you know, you got a McFlurry and a Big Mac and everything, and you're driving home. And it's okay. You eat the food, you're sad, your plan failed. How do you come back from that? Well, you learn. You learn. What did you learn about it? Were you hungry? Were you not prepared? Did you not have a meal in you? And that's why when you drove past the fast food store, you decided to make that decision that you could go. It goes with anything. It goes back to that learning from failure. And this could honestly be even a more in-depth episode we get into. But change. You gotta be willing to adapt and grow and accept some change in your life if you want to get to a place that you are not currently at. And so you have to plan for that change. That's going to be hard. That's going to be different. That's going to maybe something you don't want to do. If you think that like me and Austin wake up every day and do some of the things we do, and like that's what we want to do, we know where it's going to take us and the steps needed. But I want to go out and I want to eat burgers and I want to get pancakes every day for breakfast, but I know that's not going to get me to my goals.
And like, I think the perfect example of this is, okay, so sometimes things in life happen. So last week I went to California for work. That was not planned. On Monday at 10 a.m., I found out that I was going to California. It was, how soon can you get on a plane? And I was like, was not ready for that one. And so obviously I'm pretty good about my meals. I mean, I'm pretty strict with my diet and following meals. So I'm like, all right, well, this is a pretty interesting situation, because obviously I'm now not really able to, I mean, you can take some food onto a plane with you, but taking an entire week's worth is kind of difficult. You only have so many carry-on bags. And, and so, one of the things that I did, I was like, all right, so especially with the COVID lockdowns in California being a lot more restrictive than any other state really at this point, trying to find certain foods was a little more difficult than others. So one of the plans that I put in place was try to eat lighter throughout the day and keep everything as lean as I possibly could, with just pretty much proteins and maybe minimal fats from like nuts. And then if I was going to be out exploring and like going and eating some food, getting a lot of steps in. And I'm talking a lot. Like I had like 25,000 steps a day for like 3 days in a row, because I'm like, all right, because if I'm going to eat something that's probably not as healthy, that may not fit on my diet as good, I'm going to make sure that my plan is to offset that by walking an extreme amount of steps, or doing some sort of like cardio activity that's going to be an extreme amount that's going to hopefully offset that. Also, my metabolism's in a little different place because of dieting for so long, so it can handle a little bit, but that's me knowing my body at this moment. But I mean, that was my plan when my original plan of following that week's diet went haywire. So,
Yeah, and that's just really all it comes down to. Address what your goal is, where you're aiming at. Like you have to have a destination, otherwise, you're just walking around. You don't know where you're headed, and set out those markers, set out those we call them sub goals, things that are they're checking you, they're making sure, okay, I am progressing, and whether that's a lot of people do well with someone who holds them accountable. So if someone you trust, the best is self accountability. Like once you can establish that in yourself, then it's unquestioned. But it is always great to have some level of external accountability. So build those markers. When things go awry, when things fail, don't quit. Don't just quit the process. You can still keep going. You can still find your way to that destination. But you gotta have a plan. So I think that hits it for this Mindset Monday. Hope y'all got a plan and you're headed on your way towards it. We got some exciting things coming. I want to talk about them a little bit, Austin. I know we'll tap into them a little more.
we'll save it for Friday.
All right, you guys gotta wait.
You gotta wait. That's okay though. So just make sure you tune in on Friday. We got some cool announcements, and I think a lot of you will be really excited for it. So it's a lot of cool stuff. We're excited about it, and I hope you all will be too. So, all right. Anyway, it's been a good time sharing some mindset with you. So, all right. Have a great week. Thanks for listening to the Iron Breed Podcast.